It is Saturday, everybody, and we are back. You know what that means. It is time for HT Pregame. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Pitts, Sports Mental Health Empowerment Coach. As always, my ride or die co-host and former HBCU scholar athlete Ronnie Ransom is still with me as we take HT Pregame to the next level. For our team here at Pregame, folks, it really is all about family. It's all about your family. It's all about our family. And today it's going to be all about our Legalshield family, too, because we are so honored to have. He's not a stranger to House Talk. He's not a stranger to HT. We got Theodore Wright III is joining us today. He is going to share some knowledge with us. Ronnie will get more into that in a few minutes. But, folks, this is the deal. Week after week, we are having the hard conversations on topics that are relevant to our Black and Brown communities globally, including our HBCU families, scholar and professional athletes and their families, and our Heritage Sports Radio Network family. We love that you join us each week to get powerful, albeit raw. Sorry, put the disclaimer out there. Look, y'all know I put the disclaimer out there every week. Albeit raw, life, sports, and mental health information needed to make well-informed athletic and life-transforming decisions. We also want you to remember that you can catch us at this same time. Ronnie, we compete with ourselves every week. How crazy is that? Because we are actually on Heritage Sports Radio Network right now at 11 a.m. And we are also on HSRN at 10 p.m. on Saturdays and at 6 p.m. on Sundays. We always encourage you to go to the App Store, get that HSRN app, download it so that you can listen to us. And let me just say, our colleagues, Mr. Wright, that are on HSRN, oh my gosh, the show lineup is just absolutely positively extraordinary. So I want to take this moment to shout out all of my colleagues, our colleagues that are on HSRN, 24/7, just doing some extraordinary work, bringing the powerful life-transforming information from a number of different perspectives and life topics that are influencing all of our lives. So don't just tune into HT Pregame, tune into all the shows on HSRN, because when I say we doing the darn thing at HSRN, we doing the darn thing at HSRN. And we want you to be a part of getting this wealth of information as well. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Ronnie, give it to them.
All right. Good morning, everybody. What another wonderful Saturday it is. I hope everybody is surviving week 4 of this pollen attack that's going on across the East. Like I said, I don't know how it is down in Texas. And Ted, where are you logging in from?
Oh, I'm right here in Bowie, Maryland.
So I don't know how it is in Bowie, Maryland. You on the East Coast as well. But this pollen, we on week 4. We need a good torrential rain to get rid of this pollen so we can actually breathe again. But outside of that, everything is going wonderful on this Saturday. We got a great show lined up for you. We have a great guest host with us, Mr. Ted Wright. So our topic for today is financial literacy and legal protection. So did you all know that, in fact, only 10% of U.S. colleges have some type of legal services aided to the students for any kind? So college students need protection. What can be done to shield them from adverse legal and financial situations that could take their attention away from the classroom and negatively impact their life and their college career? So we have this wonderful guest, Mr. Ted Wright, here today to talk about how college students, whether you're a student athlete or a regular college student, and even for high school student athletes getting ready to go to college, how you can protect yourself, your finances, and your legality and your identity as well, being a young adult. Because as we see, spamware, malware, ransomware is on the rise across the country and throughout the world. We see, I think just yesterday or Thursday, President Biden had put some sanctions down on Russia for meddling with the election and stuff, messing with people's identities, creating false accounts and stuff to influence people and things like that. So we see these things out here in the real world, but a lot of times college students or just young people in general aren't aware of these things because it's just not something they pay attention to, but it can impact them negatively as well. So we have Ted right here today to join us and talk with us about that. And as always, of course, me and Dr. Pitts have our mental health tips of the week. Actually, this week, I want Dr. Pitts to go first because I might piggyback off of her, offer mine. I switched it up on you. Yeah, I switched it up on you today. So
You see, I let him do his thing. I trust him. I let him do his thing. You see how he just did me that? Okay, that's how we doing today. All right. So as we make this connection, my mental health tips are always about relationships. As a couple marriage and family therapist, as you can imagine, I see a lot. I see a lot of stuff. And, we talked last week and we've mentioned several times on the show how money is, the top reason why people get divorced. But what does that look like within the context of legal issues? As we know, and Ted will get into it, the legal aspect of what's the word I'm looking for? Not the legal aspect, the legal challenges that exist in relationships have the ability to make or break a relationship. And when you get into that context within Black and Brown communities, as we know from everything that's going on, and just as a side note, we want to offer our deepest condolences and heartfelt sympathy to Dante Wright, to the Dante Wright family. And that's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother show. But it's fitting because we know that situations and circumstances like this can put a strain. When I think about, you know that I binge watch 2020, ID on OWN and all of those types of show because they serve to keep my clinical skills sharp, right? You know how many times I've watched those episodes and there's some sort of legal issue that ends up tearing the marriage apart. It puts financial strain on the family. And I'm not disputing the severity of those challenges, but what I'm saying is that we get married for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, until death do we part, or whatever version of those marriage vows are that you share. And I think that, as Ted will share with us today, that when you look at the strain that financial issues and legal issues combined, because we know the right legal issue can break you financially, right? The strain that puts on the mental well-being of the relationship, of the family. No, we can't plan for the Dante Wrights and the George Floyds and the Ahmaud Arbery's and the countless Breonna Taylors and Trayvon. The list is crazy, right? We can't prepare for everything that is unforeseen. But as Ted is going to illuminate for you today, there are some preparations that we can put in place on purpose. We can be deliberate and intentional in not only making sure our financial house is in order, but in making sure that our legal house is in order, because either one of those items individually are enough to destroy the foundation of a family, as well as a marital union, as well as a scholar athlete or a professional athlete's life, as we have seen time and time again. Look right at the Super Bowl, and I know he's not Black or brown, but Andy Reid's son and the drinking and drive, that legal disaster, right? The strain that these types of incidents are putting on the psyche of all of those involved. All of those involved, the perpetrators and the victims, there's space to prepare to the best of one's ability for these types of occurrences. And by so doing, you are creating a space to remain of sound mind amidst the tragedy, amidst the crises. And I think that it is so important that folk get off of the superficial parts of relationships. Yeah, hey, can I just say, Eric is marrying a queen. He truly is. But guess what? The priority isn't on how beautiful he thinks I am. There's so many other things that could, child support, traffic violations, murder, drug arrest. The list goes on. We know these legal issues, these financial issues that are plaguing our communities every day. And folk are not prepared. Folk don't even have a house to put up for bail. They don't have a house to put up to retain rock solid legal counsel. But it's needed, because I don't know about you, but I'm not, and I'm not taking nothing from the public defenders. I'm just going to say that a lot of the ones that I've seen haven't been impressive. Just saying that. So you have to be proactive. Getting your financial and your legal house in order is going to serve to help you to stay of sound mind. When these sorts of things happen, it's enough to run you crazy. I count it a blessing. I thank God for Jesus that pain that these mothers are experiencing, I don't know that pain, but that pain comes in my office. And if you can at least eliminate the legal and the financial strain associated with that attack on your psyche, it'll make it easier for you to come to me and Ronnie and our colleagues all over the nation and all around the world and to get mentally well. That's my mental health tip for today.
Thank you, Dr. Pitts. That was a wonderful tip and wonderful advice there. I think in a situation like that, with Dante Wright's family and stuff like that, we keep having these same conversations. It seems like each week now. Each week is somebody new. There's a new hashtag, and it's just like it's like living in a nightmare you can't wake up from. And and for me, thinking about bringing a son into this world who, even though I'm a fair skin and stuff like that, he's still a Black child. He's still gonna be a Black man in this world. And me and my wife were talking a couple of days ago. I was like, my parents never had to have no conversation about how to interact with police with me. But unfortunately, when he gets older, we're going to have that type of conversation. Yeah. And, it's sad that that's one of the things that is kind of a prerequisite to have a conversation with your child before they become a teenager, is how to conduct yourself around an adult who might be scary, or not how to conduct themselves when things get a little, heated or whatever. And so, having that legal protection, I always tell people, it's always err on the side of caution, but always at the end of the day, protect yourself at no matter what, don't take the fall for nobody else. And so, like I said, I can only imagine what those families are going through. And, my heart and condolences go out to his family and everybody else who's been impacted by this, because it wasn't just his family impacted by it, his friends, his loved ones, his girlfriend, he had a 2-year-old son, right? Yeah. I think he had a 2-year-old son. So, I mean, now, unfortunately, here's a son who might end up in, mental health services because he has to deal with the trauma of losing his father at such a young age and never had a chance to get to know him. And that doesn't go away. That child's life is forever changed. And so, that's very unfortunate. So my mental health tip of the week, and, this is something that, we definitely going to have Ted touch on as well, is, I think this is a conversation that, parents should have with their teenage children. And this is about protecting that teenager's identity. When I was growing up, I was fortunate enough where, I finally had a cell phone going into high school. That was when I had my first cell phone, but it was a flip phone. We didn't have iPhones and things like that. We didn't have all this crazy technology, stuff like that. So, scams and stuff like that wasn't anything that was really, something that we had to be concerned with. But nowadays, kids have to be wary of scams and things like that to steal their identity and to steal, their information, where they live, where they go to school at, and things like that. You could track these things now through different apps and all that. So I actually had a client 2 weeks ago had got scammed out of $100 by a fake account on Instagram, because he thought the account basically told him, well, if you send me $100, I can turn it into $8,000. I just need your name, social security number, and your bank card information. And, this client, I won't disclose the diagnosis, but, he was naive to, put trust into this person. And as a result, he had his information stolen. Fortunately enough, his mom was able to, call the bank and, get the money back and stuff like that. But her real fear was like, well, he gave his social security number, what if he finds my son and things like that? What if this person has ill intentions and things like that? So I think having those conversations with teenagers, because I always tell parents, you can't shield your child from the world that's out there. They're going to find it eventually. And kids nowadays, they're finding it at earlier and earlier ages, because of technology, because of social media, and because of things like that. And as adults, we always know that not every adult has good intentions for children. Unfortunately, there are adults out here who want to manipulate and, steer children to them to do, negative things and harmful things to them, whether that's, nowadays stealing their money or stealing their identity, using them and things like that. So having those conversations with your children about the dangers and not trusting everybody, especially through social media. If you can't lay eyes on them, if you can't have a conversation with them, if your parent can't verify that they can trust this person, don't talk to them. And oftentimes, when you're dealing with teenagers feel like, you're trying to control their life and, run them and things like that. But understanding as a parent that you have to see the bigger picture for your children before they can, and letting them know, like, look, not everybody out here has good intentions for you. So, parents who are out here listening today, and even young kids who have phones and have access to social media and stuff like that, nobody's going to ask you through any type of text message, video message, direct message, or anything like that. Nobody's going to ask you for personal information and be professional. That does not exist. There's not a bank, there's not an agent, there's not a lawyer, there's not nobody out here who will consider themselves a professional that's going to ask you for your personal information through a public platform with no type of encryption or security that can guarantee that your identity and who you are as a person is going to be safe and secure. So, to the parents out there who give their children cell phones and stuff like that, have the restrictions on there if you feel that's a must, but have those conversations with your children. I often see a lot of times parents will avoid having those conversations with their children because they feel like, well, if I tell them about this or I expose this to them, they want to go and do it. No, I would argue against that. I would really argue against that. Just because you tell a child, like, it's no different than having the sex talk with children. Parents often feel like, well, I can't have the sex talk with my child because they don't want to go out here and do it.
They're gonna do it anyway.
It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work where you can just go out here and, well, I think I'm gonna have sex today. It doesn't necessarily work that way. There's a lot more to it than just that. But parents have that initial fear of, well, I can't shield my child if I tell them about this because it can happen. Well, I mean, some of that can be true. You can shield your child to the best of your abilities, but the world is the world, and it's a real harsh world out here. So you being their parent, while they're in your house until they're 18 or however long they're with you, these are the years you help build that foundation for them and express that knowledge to them so they can know what to expect. Don't let them get to 18, 19 years old and leave out the house, and this is the first time they're dealing with it. This is the first time they're seeing it. And then they come to you like, well, why didn't you tell me about this? Why didn't you prepare me for this? Because you want to shield them and not let them have to think about that at an early age. Kids nowadays, they're going to find this information one way or another. They're going to find it on Google, Facebook, Instagram, somehow, some way. So you be their first teacher. You be their first person that they have this conversation with, and have that rapport with your child where they can come to you and not feel like they're going to be judged or you're going to jump to conclusions, and they can be honest with you and tell you what's really going on so you can help them find solutions and guide them through this. Because it's not going anywhere. Technology is not going anywhere. Social media is not going anywhere, but they're going to be living in this world. So we have to help our children prepare for these type of things that are going on out there, and let them know that whether it's in person or through technology, people are out here to hurt you in any way possible. So that's my mental health tip of the week. Go ahead, Dr. Pitts.
2 points that you made that I wanted to circle back to. Ronnie, as you were talking, you always provoke my thoughts. My people perish for lack of knowledge. And I think that it is a travesty. I think that it is a miscarriage of parental justice that people hide behind the fear of not wanting to have the hard conversations, supposedly under the premise that they don't want their child to engage in behavior. I always said, and there were times that I embarrassed the heck out of Andre because we had those hard conversations at a very young age, because he needed to get that truth. He needed to get the truth from me, from his father, from the adults in his life that know better, because when you know better, you must do better. He had to get that information from legitimate sources, because as we know, because we were all very, very young ones, the streets lie. The streets will give you wrong information. And we wanted our son to be able to make well-informed decisions. And in order for him to be able to do that effectively, we had to provide him with the truth. So this is a call to action. It is a call to action for parents to do better at communicating more effectively with your children. And if you don't feel comfortable having that conversation with your children, that's fine. We're not judging you. We're not criticizing you. But clearly, there has to be someone in your life, someone in that child's life that is capable of having these hard yet responsible preparatory conversations with these children, so they are not going out into the world blind, so they are not going out into the streets blind. The second point, and you said, you made reference to teenagers, and I know we're talking about scholar athletes and what have you, but it triggered me, Ronnie, because I remember, and please forgive me, I do not remember the 9-year-old child's name. I remember a couple of years ago, the child that was killed in Chicago. It was a 9-year-old child that was playing with a toy gun or something like that, and the cops shot that child. Talking about that they thought
Tamir Rice.
Is that who that? And I do apologize. I don't remember the child's name.
I think it might be Tamir.
I just remember that the child was 9 years old. So once, it's like you said, many years ago, those conversations weren't being had to the degree that they were having to have them now. But I think that if we wait until the child is a teenager, that we're doing them a disservice, because what we know is that walking while Black, driving while Black, being Black in this country is dangerous. Point blank, plain and simple. So whether it's a group of Black children walking to, we're talking elementary school kids or whatever the case may be, walking from home to school or to the pizza parlor or wherever it is they might be going, there is a strong possibility that they are going to encounter the police, a racist, or someone that is going to use the color of their skin as a license to stand their ground and take action, lethal action, against a child that we later find out was totally innocent. I think that we need to start having these conversations as early as kindergarten. We know, Ronnie, as clinicians, that there are age-appropriate ways to have the hard conversations, but we have to start having these conversations as soon as these children are cognitively able to understand that being born Black in this country is dangerous. And I will tell you, here's the connection. Andre will be 33 next month. And I started having those conversations. I kid you all not. He was probably kindergarten or first grade the first time that his father and I had a conversation with him around some of the challenges that would come in life simply because he was a Black male. It's a conversation that you have to have, and you are doing your child a disservice. And look, as we know, it has nothing to do with socioeconomic status. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with socioeconomic status. If the cops can stop Tyler Perry in Atlanta in his Mercedes-Benz with personalized tags, it has nothing to do with socioeconomic status. If Niecy Nash's child can get stopped driving from home to wherever.
If you have on a military uniform as a Black man, a lieutenant in the military, or officer in the military, they don't care. Shannon Sharp says it on Undisputed all the time when they talk about these situations, and it can't be any more true, especially for our student athletes who are listening. The only uniform as a Black person that you can never take off is your skin. You can put on a baseball uniform, basketball, football, soccer, baseball, whatever, doesn't matter. You can put on an army uniform, police uniform, a suit, tie, whatever the case may be. The only uniform you cannot take off as a Black man or Black woman in this world is your skin. And that right there, because of the color of somebody's skin, because of the skin that you have no choice over choosing, is a detriment to your life and your safety every single day. And we preach about it all the time. People have to feel safe in order to grow and develop. They cannot grow and develop naturally if they don't feel safe and secure. And for so many Black people in this country and around the world, they are already at a disadvantage mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally because they never feel a sense of comfort or safety, even in their own skin, because of society, because of what they're told, because of how they're looked at, because of what people think about them. And it has to stop. It has to, and I always tell people, it might not be in my generation, but I will be the change I want to see in this world. Yes. And being, me, I'm biracial, so I come from both sides. But I always tell people I'm biracial, but I have no white privilege in me whatsoever. When I get pulled over, they see a Black man or a Hispanic man, whatever nationality they want to consider me other than white. My mama could be in the passenger seat beside me. They won't see that I have white privilege. There is no such thing as white privilege to anybody who is not white skin, blue eyes, whatever the case may be, whatever stereotypical white person they think of. If you don't look like that, they don't care. That's not all of them, though. I'm not going to sit there and say that's every single white person, because we know that's not true either. However, when you don't call it out, when you continue to allow your peers to perpetrate this message and this stereotype and how they treat other people who don't look like them, you are just as guilty. Yeah. Doesn't matter if you're a police officer, firefighter, whatever the case may be. When your coworkers, when your peers perpetuate this message and this treatment against other people who don't look like them in the community that they're supposed to serve and protect, you are no better than them. Yeah. And we have to stop that. We have to hold people accountable. We can't expect one group of people or other groups of people who don't look like the majority to act in a way that they can't even hold themselves accountable to act like. That's not fair, and that's not real. And we're living in a delusional world if we think that's how it's supposed to be. It shouldn't be that way. We have to hold them accountable, and they have to hold themselves accountable.
Truth. All right, Ronnie.
All right. Like I said, that's a whole separate episode. That's a whole separate episode right there. Yeah. So let's get into this conversation. So like we said, today's conversation is financial literacy and legal protection. So we have a special guest here on the show today who is not a stranger to this show. He has been on previous episodes before. He was just on an episode back in October where we were talking about, fraternities and sororities on college campuses and stuff, being a student athlete. So we brought this gentleman back today to talk about what he does in the professional world, being part of Legalshield and IDShield. So we have Mr. Ted right here with us today. Ted, thank you for joining in with us today. Grateful for you to take time with us and to share your knowledge and your wealth of gems with us. How are you today?
I am doing absolutely great, brother. I'm Ronnie, and I'd like to thank Dr. Pitts as well for inviting me back to the show. That means I was on good behavior first time, and so you guys invited me back. I ain't doing anything wrong, so I'm excited about that. So I'm just here as a humble servant to share some information. And first of all, I got to start. You all's conversation just took me all over the place. The mental health tips were, as you both said, a show in itself. But when we start talking about racism, and I want to start there and just kind of chime into that, God created humanity. He created all the hues, all the colors, all the shapes, all the sizes. He made everything that he created perfect. Here we have people who bleed the same blood when they get cut as we do, which is red, who now want to, upon themselves, take and isolate and categorize individuals based on their skin color and then to actually profile them. It's a tough situation to be in, and it's just hard that we see it that way. But if people go back to the origin, and know that God created humanity in his likeness and leave it at that, we could reduce some of the things that are happening, because we would be only hurting ourselves if we look at us as individuals and not as a human race. But to jump in and get off my soapbox with that, yes, Brother Ronnie, I'm actually helping individuals in this country understand that they need, and as a necessity now, not a luxury, to have access to legal help. And as we already know, it's not that the justice system is broken. Mm-hmm. It just is unaffordable for the individuals that look like us to access the things that are necessary for us to be able to move along, not necessarily bad thing, getting out of bad situation. But what about when we're trying to move forward in life and do the right things and make sure all of our ducks are in a row and that we set ourselves up on a great foundation legally? It's still out of our range to be able to afford those things. And what we do as a people, unfortunately, and before I had access to this knowledge or enlightened by Legalshield, I watched my parents make their own decisions based on what they thought, or they went and asked, Ray Ray and Pookie and them, what did they do in that situation? And it may not be relevant to the time. The laws could have changed, and they're trying to make decisions based on factual information, but they're getting it from a source that doesn't have the facts. And so where Legalshield comes in, they've been able to bridge the cost factor that has been prohibiting individuals from having access to justice, but also being able to bring quality law firms together in an affordable way to help the masses. And so I just equated really, Dr. Pitson and Ronnie, as simply a healthcare plan like an HMO, as most people are familiar with in healthcare. You have a primary care physician. When you need to go to the doctor, you don't pay the full $400 for that doctor visit. There's a copay. So in transitioning to Legalshield, it's a similar concept and model, whereas you actually get access to the best law firms money can buy, but you may pay pennies on that dollar every day for access to that. But because there is a huge pool of people that's able to pay into that pot, the law firms find it valuable to them to provide services that they went to school for, they're educated in, they're passionate about serving in, and being able to help people that are willing to participate in that network. And so Legalshield has put together a nationwide network to include Canada now, and we're in the UK. So you can now be able to pay into something, into your state, basically, have access to that law firm for whatever needs that you have. 90% of the things that the average person needs Legalshield for are already paid for in your monthly membership. However, the 10% is if you decide to rob a bank, DUI, criminal charges that you could have avoided with better decisions. Maybe talking to Dr. Pitts or Brother Ransom about those thoughts of doing things that are probably not going to be in your best interest beforehand. Legalshield's still there to help you with those things, but there's a cost factor involved, and you get a 25% discount to help with those things. And the tie on the identity piece, and Legalshield saw a need at the time, probably about 15 years ago, when most people weren't even concerned about identity theft, especially in the Black and brown communities. When I started talking to people that looked like me about identity theft, they were looking at me like a deer in the headlights. They would say things to me like, oh, nobody don't want to steal my identity. If they stole my identity and saw what was there, they'd actually call me up and give it back. And so they just kind of thought of things in terms of I had to have good credit, I had to have a lot of stuff for people to attack me. But cyber criminals today, it's not even about your credit. They just want to be able to do other things, set up accounts in your name. They may even be paying them for a while. Yeah. And how does that damage us? And when we talk about our college-age kids, and this is some of my clients have come to me, and the kids get ready to file for a student loan to get his education moved forward. The parent had Pell Grant paid a portion of it. They knew that the kid was going to probably be eligible, and then found out that he had, 4 or 5 cell phone bills that he didn't pay, electric bill in his name, and he didn't even have a house yet because maybe mom and daddy, uncle, brother, sister didn't have good credit to get the lights turned on. So they used the kid's name whose credit was perfect. And then they faltered on those things. And now the kid's damaged, not able to get a loan. And the parents are already jacked up, so they can't help them. Now here's the question. How does a kid get his identity fixed? And here's the real challenge. The only way that you can get it fixed is that you have to turn in the perpetrator. So the law is not going to help you until you identify the perpetrator and press charges against them. So if it was Uncle Billy who did it, now your mom is saying, you're going to try to get my brother in trouble? with this thing, let's find another way around it. And generally that way around it is letting 7 years go by and let it fall off that kid's credit report before we report Uncle Bill. So just to get, that's what Legalshield does in a nutshell. They provide access to attorneys that can help with every aspect of your life legally for basically between 25 and 40 bucks, 25 and 50 bucks a month based on a particular plan that you get.
Awesome. That sounds like something that, shoot, I think I need to sign up for myself. Before we dive into all the nooks and crannies of Legalshield and ID Shield, I just wanted to take a step back real quick because you have been on the show before, but since the last time you were on the show, I would assume that we have definitely had a lot more viewers and listeners and things like that. And here you are as a Black man who has very professional career and things like that. We don't always see people like you get highlighted and hyped up on platforms like this. And our kids need to see that. Our young kids, teenagers, and things need to see that, to see a Black man in the position that you're in. So I wanted to take a step back real quick and have you just, give people a little rundown of how you got to this position to work for Legalshield and ID Shield, just a little bit about yourself real quick.
Okay. Well, Legalshield provides individuals who may be interested in an opportunity to own a franchise, if you will, and you have your own Legalshield and ID Shield business. You can actually build a team and have people help you to get the message out. Our primary mission is to protect every individual in this country and give them affordable access to justice, which is legal and ID Shield. Back in 2003, my background is I was born and raised in Washington, D.C., a Scholar high school student, went to Bowie State University, played some football there. I got my degree in broadcast journalism and had this huge inspiration to want to work at WHUR. I wanted to do the Quiet Storm, but Melvin Lindsay just seemed to show up to work every day. And there was only one job, and he never seemed like he was wanting to leave. So I had to figure out something else to do. So I got into healthcare management just to try to find an opportunity to work. And I got into managing housekeeping operations in large hospital and healthcare facilities, which kind of got me, in God's special way, had me have compassion for people, not only the people that were sick, and have given them inspiration every day through my walks and inspiring my employees who were delivering the services of housekeeping. Bottom of the totem pole, never recognized. Only when the hair is in the sink and the patient went in there and complained did I get a phone call about this. So here I'm in the middle of I called it, the hospital wanted Ritz-Carlton work. They paid my employees Motel 6 wages. Put me in the middle and say, get those people for that wage to deliver Ritz-Carlton work every day. Now, I just happen to be pretty good at that. I could sell the vision, but I felt limited because I couldn't help enough people. It was restrictions and rules. So that position, as I was trying to climb the corporate ladder, started to diminish in my heart. And I got introduced to Legalshield. It was offered as a benefit on my job, and I started using it. I saw its value. And then someone told me a year later that, you've been telling people about this, they will pay you for that. How does that work? Went out, got it connected with Legalshield back in 2003. I'm celebrating in May 29th will be my 19th year in this company. I've built the business. I have over 900 reps that are part of my team. We have clients in the group arena, which we sell this as an employee benefit. Some of my clients include United Negro College Fund. Their employees are Legalshield members through my relationship with that organization. Volunteers of America Chesapeake, which is a huge service organization in the community, helping people who are homeless. UCAP, which is another organization for women's homeless shelter that I support in other ways. So I've been able to reach a lot of people, but it's been able to be a rich and enriching experience for me to know that I'm being able to help some folks who normally wouldn't have access to the $300 an hour lawyer. We can help them get access to that for about $300 to $400 a year.
Okay, that's beautiful right there. That's awesome. And, like we said, having more Black professionals in these arenas is what we need, and they need to have a voice. They need to let people know that they're out here and things like that. So we're glad to be able to get you on the show to be able to talk about this. So I want to dive right in, real quick about Legalshield and stuff like that. Talk to us a little bit about, you also being a former student athlete. We know that, a lot of the times when you get to college and things like that, when you're a student athlete, depending on the level and things like that, you have this perception of, oh, well, I'm the rock star on campus. I get to get away with, murder on campus, and nobody's going to, bat an eye or even think twice about what I did and whatnot. But we know that's not always the case, especially at smaller schools, especially at HBCUs, where, you can find yourself in some real legal trouble and there might not be any type of legal representation to help you at all. I know, for instance, when I was at Virginia State, our coach was our legal representation, but his rules were simple. If you break the law, be honest with me. If you tell me a lie and I find out you're lying, you have to deal with the law yourself. And that was it. That was our legal protection. That was it. I don't know what the school offered. I can be honest with you. I had teammates who got in legal trouble with the school and, off campus, and the school got them in trouble and the school just kicked them out. So, I mean, that's really only the only school's way of handling legal situations is, well, they're a detriment to the school. They're a liability to the school. Now we got to get rid of them. And we know that, well, let me step back. I'll be honest. When I first got to college and things like that, being younger and things like that, and you see kids make these bad decisions over and over and over and over again. Back then, I used to believe like, well, they're just a bad person. They just want to keep making bad choices. They don't care about themselves and things like that. Now that I'm on the other side of that and I'm a clinician and I work with people who have these similar backgrounds and have these similar behaviors, I see that this is more of a behavioral issue, but this is also a systemic issue in what they're around. And I had some teammates, because they came from broken homes and things like that. They always had, in their mind, they had this hustler's mentality where I have to get it by any means necessary. I have to make money any means necessary, because I just can't sit around and wait for a degree or wait for somebody to hand me a job and make some money. I got to make money for me and my family right now. And oftentimes we know at that age, when you don't have a degree, you really don't have any job experience, the only way you can make money is by doing illegal things. So as a former student athlete, what are some of the benefits that Legalshield could provide student athletes where they know that, on the front side it would take, people like me and Dr. Pitts to address those issues head on. But you also know we can't get to everybody. And sometimes some people aren't willing to listen to the advice and suggestions that, we might offer up in those type of arenas. So how would Legalshield help a student athlete who might find themselves in some type of legal trouble, get protection where it's not just the school says, well, we're going to take your scholarship and kick you off campus, where, there might be something that we can do to kind of rectify this issue without it having to be this large ultimatum.
Absolutely. And you brought up a great point. You have to remember that college students are 18 years old to probably up to about 23, 24 years old. We have to remember that our mindset aren't the same as we are today. When we've gone through some things and have some experiences to be able to equate the mistakes that we made to some of the things that we did well. Well, one of the things I would initially like to talk to is the parents of those students. They can actually afford to pay for this membership. And what the membership does, it covers your college student throughout their entire college career. Plus yourself as a parent get coverage as well, and any children that you still have in your household currently. So when they go to college, it follows the kid and they actually get to use the law firm in the state that they're in. And so they'll have access to, through an app, that they can actually call the law firm for various variety of things. So just to give you a couple of things for a student athlete, and I want to start at the high school level, why parents need to have this in the beginning, is because if your kid is a blue chip athlete, everybody in America is calling you. The Syracuses, the LSUs, these coaches you've seen on TV, and your child or your son or daughter are enamored by those things, that these people are coming to see me and I want to sign this. And they sent this letter for me to read and told me if I do this, they're going to give me some shoes, whatever it is. So that whole process, you have to understand it's a business. And those coaches are tied to, in the alumni associations and the booster clubs of these schools, it's all about wins. It's all about national championships. It's all about having a great program. So the only way we can do that is we have to figure out how to go get the best talent to attend our university. And so there's some good tactics and that are above board that people do to attract students to come. But then there's shysters. There are people who use illegal tactics to attract people who are unaware, get them to sign documents that they don't know what they're signing, and maybe offer them things that they should not be taking. And then when you're in that position, now they have you in a position where you can't expose that because you were complicit. And now how do you deal with that? So in the beginning, have Legalshield review all those contracts. When the coach from Florida A&M sends up something to you, great, trust him. But listen, I'm gonna have my law firm look over these documents first before we sign anything, any letters of intent, any scholarship documents, any loan agreements. All those things that go in the preparatory stages of coming to college are important that the parents can help out by doing that in the beginning. Now, when you're talking about walking on campus, a lot of kids don't want to stay in the dorms because a lot of times the dorms are already full. So housing is always an issue in the beginning of the semester. So some kids don't have a place to stay. So parents now go out, secure a lease. Bless you, Brother Ransom. They secure a lease, and that's a legal contract. Now you're actually signing a lease to a house or an apartment that you as the parent are not going to be there to supervise. Your name's on the line. Maybe your kid's the co-signer trying to build his credit or whatever. And you're not controlling who and what's going in and out of that property. If something happens, you're responsible. So if the kid signs that agreement because he wants to do it with a couple of his friends, at least if he had Legalshield, he could say, I'm gonna let them review the contract. And I had the attorney look over this. He said it was a good deal. And this is what the amount is that I have to pay. What do you think? That's showing responsibility as a kid. Yeah. When your kid goes away, you might leave them with the car, or they have a driver's license and they'll be driving someone else's car when they may be inebriated one night and they need a designated driver and your kid's not the drinker. He still has a driver's license. It's a privilege to drive. But what happens if he gets pulled over for turning red or right on red, and now he gets a speeding ticket or a moving violation? Now, parents who have teenage drivers, you already know this. Soon as you called, I don't care which insurance company it was, they weren't nice to you in the price that they charged you when you added your teenager to that plan. Mm-hmm. Now, you got tired of being the Uber mom and dad, taking them to all the practices and all that. You needed some relief. So you wanted them to be able to drive a few places that was close so they could get some practice driving. So they got their experience, now they're gone to college. Who's monitoring their driving record at that point? Do you think they're going to call you up if they get a speeding ticket on 95 going down to visit somebody at another school? No, they're going to try to figure it out themselves and pay it, may even take time off of school to go to court. Missing class for this. But as part of Legalshield, as soon as you're a member, Legalshield will show up in any courtroom in the country, anywhere in Canada, to represent your kid in court for a traffic violation 100% of the time. There's no cap. And now they have an 85% success rate of getting that thing dismissed, where Geico, State Farm, when they review your insurance record for renewal, they don't see that. So now hopefully the rates go down because they've been a great driver. But if they stay the same, that's better than increasing. So those are just a couple of areas. If you have problems with a student, another student on campus, I mean, there's how do you deal with those issues? Somebody steals something from you. Do I go fight them, or is there a legal way to deal with this matter? The administration is not doing what I think they should do. Or I have a housing issue and me and this person is not getting along. How do I transfer if I went to housing and they say they don't have space for me, but I feel it's a volatile situation that may escalate into something? Legalshield can actually be able to help you by writing letters to the university and using your rights to enforce them to do something to protect you. So those are just a couple of things, Brother Ransom, that will be able to help a student coming into a university and being able to use Legalshield to help them with that. And not to even mention about identity theft. I mean, your social security number is being used all over campus for your grade postings and things like that. They used to do those things anyway. You have roommates who you don't know. You can have information laying out. Person can get your social security number, driver's license information, or whatever the case may be, and use that against you. And how do you know if somebody has integrity and you just randomly leave something out? And think about PlayStation, Xbox, and all this other stuff. To get on that system, you have to give up credit card information. And that is another way that they're targeting our younger generation of kids and taking their identities before the parent would even think at 18 to look. They already had credit at 9. And nobody knows that. And the kid is being damaged and don't even know what's going on at that point. So I just want to just drop it there for you, Brother Ronnie, and turn it back over to you.
Got you. I see, Dr. Pitts, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I had a few things came up. So when you were talking and I smiled, is because I was reminded of Andre's, I believe it was his freshman year in college. And to your point about, oh, well, if they get a speeding ticket and this and the third, oh, no. I knew, because he got stopped going over 100 miles an hour on, I went crazy. He got stopped going over 100 miles an hour on I-4 on his way from Orlando back to Miami to school. And, to your point, it's like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? But it also made me think about, obviously, what you said about the insurance companies, in that I don't know with certainty that this is the case, but it seems like, if I had to roll the dice and guess, I would bet some money that the moment you add your child to your insurance, and because we have to put demographic information on there, the moment you add a Black male to your insurance policy, your rates are going through the roof. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing. I honestly don't recall how much my car insurance went up when I added Andre, because in Florida, he got his learner's permit at 15 and was driving at 16. So carried him all those years. And it's just like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. So that in and of itself is a reason, because, we tell folks this information is relevant to all people, but because of what we identify as, we do focus our information on Black and brown communities, and the penalties that come from being Black and brown in this nation really require, in my personal and my professional opinion, the need for legal protection. I was also thinking about his junior year in college. He actually got robbed on campus, had gone to class and came, and it proved later on, it was an inside job. It was an inside job all day long, but literally had gone to class and came back, and his apartment had been robbed and took everything in the whole 9 yards, and being able to have, again, those legal systems and measures in place to be able to make sure that everything was going to be taken care of. I think the thing that resonates with me the most, Ted, about what you said, and I'm just thinking about all of the different things that go on college campuses, what also kept coming up is when I think about all the parties that we participated in when I was in undergrad, and all of my friends, every single solitary last one of my closest male friends when I was in undergrad had pledged. They were either alphas, they were kappas, the majority of them were Qs. But see, there you go. But those frat parties, and let's keep it real. The frat parties and the magnitude of binge drinking that goes on at those parties, and unfortunately, as we know, we hear about it far too frequently on the news. Oftentimes there's sexual assault allegations and what have you that come out of, recreational activities on and off campus. I think about some of the legal issues that have come up when folks are pledging. And there is just this endless list of opportunity to take proactive action in getting oneself and their children protected legally. You absolutely positively have to, because if you don't, you're gonna have to get it eventually. And you may be fortunate in that it's not your child that ends up jammed up, but is that something you want to roll the dice on? Is that something that you want to take a chance on and say, well, Hakeem's a good boy and he
yeah, he is a good boy until he leaves your house. He leaves your house.
And y'all don't even know.
Can I tell you a story?
Go ahead.
My grandmother would never, ever let me leave the house without making my bed. And I'm just going to get on my soapbox and tell y'all this crazy story. But I never understood. I used to challenge her. I'm getting in it late on the night. I'm leaving it open and prepared for me to get in. What do I have to make it up for? It doesn't make a lot of sense. You're going to make your bed every day, and that's what you do. And I never forget my freshman year. I went to college, and it was my first day for class. It was that Monday morning. And I got up, I was getting dressed, and I looked at that bed. And I looked around, and I realized I was in a different place. How many of y'all know I didn't make the bed? Okay, so even though that's minor, but to your point, Dr. Pitts, sometimes the decisions are much more serious that kids say, I'm away from mom, she'll never find out. And it's not always the best decision. And then they bring you these broken pieces that cost you so much to fix.
Yeah.
If you were in a position where you could have called the law firm or they could have called themselves and say, listen, I'm thinking about doing this or getting involved in this. What are your thoughts? They can make those decisions with the credible information that won't affect you as a parent long term. And so I think it's me personally, and I'm just going to throw this out here too, Dr. Pitts. Why don't the HBCUs offer Legalshield and ID Shield as a benefit to incoming students and all the students in on campus?
They offer everything.
It doesn't cost them anything. It doesn't cost the university anything. All you have to do is open up the door and say, come to orientation, share this information with our parents virtually or however you want to do it. They can go to a website and enroll for it. You're adding value to the family that entrusted your kid to come to their university, and you're taking the initiative to say, we don't plan on anything happening. However, this is an option for you if that does happen, and it won't cost you as much if your kid goes astray, makes a mistake, or whatever the case may be, as we know that they will.
Right.
This can be a way of not only helping the student get out of situations, but also to make better decisions. And you're training them on how to use the legal system to their advantage and by having it affordably. So when they graduate from college, they age out of the Legalshield membership under your plan, they will automatically just take a plan for themselves and their family that they're going to have in the future. And now everybody's covered, and you treat that or teach that as a generational part of what we do. Yes, you get a bank account. Yes, I'm going to introduce you to the investor that we use for our financial wellness piece. Yes, I'm going to introduce you to our health professional. Yes, I'm going to introduce you to our mental health people, because we do go see and talk to people, because we can't do all this ourselves. We have to talk to other people. I'm going to introduce you to my network of people that are in our circle that are necessary for our growth. And so we have that, and we teach that process to our children and offer it to them. I don't see why the university don't take the torch and go do it. I'm willing to come to your school and talk to the kids at orientation and freshman class and say, parents, you need to arm them with this. Can I add another piece to it, Dr. Pitts, that if this doesn't put icing on the cake and the timing is not perfect, and why you need to have this, Legalshield gives you 24-hour access to an attorney in emergency situations. So let's look at what just happened with the lieutenant. Let's look at what happened with that young man in Chicago. Let's look at opportunities that when our kid gets pulled over, the mindset that they have is, and I'm going to take you through this. When I was a teenager, if I was a college student, I was under my mother's insurance and I got pulled over, I'm thinking of every way to handle that situation so she don't find out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I don't want her to know because she's going to take the keys to the car. I'm not going to be able to drive. I ain't going to be able to take my girlfriends out and do all this other stuff. I'm looking at the calamity that's going to happen if my mother finds out about this ticket.
Mm-hmm.
However, if I have Legalshield, they're going to go to court for me no matter what happened. I don't even have to miss class or anything. So now my parents still may not find out, but she's not going to get a bill. She's not going to get affected by my decision not to tell her. So it's just important that we arm our kids with the right information and being able to give them an opportunity to do that. But getting pulled over today, you think about all those things as a teenager, you think about, I'm going to get destroyed. But if you have Legalshield, you have your day in court. And this is what I want every parent to hear from me today. You want your kid to come home. You want to come home. This is for adults too. We want to come home from that police stop.
Yes.
We used to didn't have to say that, but we want to come home. If you know in your mind, I'll have my day in court and it won't cost me anything for a traffic stop, you can be more compliant. What do you need? And I'm not saying that works 100% of the time. Obviously, we see that with the lieutenant, that wasn't the case. And we have bad cops out there that do bad things, I understand. However, those people are getting exposed, and that's why we're seeing it now, and things are being done. But in the other scenario, if you have a situation like that, you know that get my license registration, I speak politely to him. I'm not going to ask all these questions because my lawyer is going to answer the questions when we go to court. In your mind, you thinking, hurry up and give me the ticket. I'm going to see you in court. I'm not going to see you. I'm going to be in class. My lawyer is going to see you. And so whatever you say, fine. At the end of the day, I'm going to drive home and I'll have a day in court where my Legalshield attorney for less than $40 a month will be able to stand in the courtroom while I'm taking my final exam. And I can go ahead and move on with my life without having the stress of all of that.
Okay. And I wanted to make a point real quick, because to your point, especially in today's society, it's crazy how you're guilty until proven innocent. And oftentimes the court of legal opinion, you're guilty. For example, and it's still an ongoing situation, but the situation with Deshaun Watson, where he had the 23 women come out and basically said that, he sexually assaulted all 23 of them. If it's true, I feel for those women because, to your point about, when kids go to campus and stuff and parents are just like, oh, our kids, they're not going to do anything. I can't tell you how many times in my 4 years of undergrad that I heard stories of females, especially, I always say, like, you could tell freshmen when they got on campus, the ones who were sheltered at home and the ones who were allowed to go out,
right?
Social life. You could always tell those ones. And unfortunately, I heard more times than I would care to hear too many stories about females being taken advantage of in that first month of being on campus, because they get to campus, they don't have parent supervision no more. The parents not breathing down their neck, checking their location every 5 seconds. So they get this new level of freedom. And unfortunately, there have been times where I've heard where females have been taken advantage of because they were intoxicated or whatever the case may be. And, now their whole perspective and their whole viewpoint of college is ruined in a sense, because now they've been exposed to the realities and the nastiness of the world that is out there, and now they feel like they have no protection and they can't go back home and tell mom and dad about it, because instead of, I'm not saying this could happen, but potentially mom and dad could sit there and look at you like, well, we told you don't do this. We tried to protect you from this. And here you go. Soon as you're not around us for 1 month, you put yourself in this position. So, I think it's very unfortunate that, these situations happen. And to your point, when somebody's looked at as guilty before proven innocent, I think having something like Legalshield or ID Shield will be super beneficial, especially for student athletes, because let's be real. On Division I campuses, the student athletes are targets, especially if you're a Black student athlete. You're targets because everybody thinks, oh, well, he's going to go to the league. He's going to go professional. I need to, be friends with them or court him or whatever the case may be. So he can keep me around when he go professional or whatever. And when that doesn't happen, then that's when you start to see people's true colors. So I think in a situation like, Deshaun's situation where you have all these women come out at one time and say, hey, he did these things to us, and public opinion is kind of like, well, one or two, you're like, we'll have to see. You got 23 to come out. I mean, you can't sit there and say all 23 are like that. So you have these situations where you put these athletes and the student athletes are put in a position where, what they do behind closed doors. And if this is a pattern of behavior for him, then, it needs to be exposed and he has to suffer the consequences. But for somebody who isn't like that and they're put in a situation, because there's been times before where I've heard stories where I had a teammate actually been accused of sexual assault. He won't even at the party. But because she knew he was on the team, that was the first name she thought of when she finally came to. Mm-hmm. And so, when it first came out, you're like, well, dang, well, did he do it? Like, what was the situation? You don't know. So it's kind of like having that protection, I think, is crucial. And to your point, I was over here thinking like, well, why don't the schools just go ahead and purchase it, at least for the student athletes? Because I wanted to transition into this next part of this, and I wanted your thoughts on it, is with colleges and states across the country starting to approve the name, image, and likeness bill, where student athletes are able to, profit off of their name, image, and likeness, especially like California, Florida, they're starting in July 1st. Their student athletes can make money off their name, whether it's jersey sales, when the video game comes back, autographs, commercials, poster boards, advertising, things like that. They finally get a piece of the pie. How important would it be for a student athlete, especially at the Division I level? Because at D2 and D3, I think at that level, you might have one or two student athletes who, because they're just popular and they have a good aura around them, they can have that type of pool, and I think we're still waiting to see how the name, image, and likeness bill affects smaller schools, because smaller schools necessarily don't generate the amount of money that the big schools do. So for these bigger school athletes, how important would it be to have something like Legalshield? And has Legalshield started to prepare themselves for an influx possibly of student athletes? Because student athletes are going to want to know, well, how do I get my money? How does my money get protected? Now that I know this, how does my ID get protected now? Because these schools, let's be real, these colleges have, 100 so year advantage on student athletes now, because these schools are basically, they've done the foundation, they've made the blueprint, they've put everything out there for these students to now capitalize off the work the school has done. So now the school's about to lose a significant chunk of that pie. So best believe the schools are finding ways to protect themselves where it's not that bad of a blow. As a student athlete, how do they protect themselves to make sure that they're getting what what this name, image, and likeness bill is promising them?
Well, to answer your question, that's great and timely. To answer your question, Legalshield is already ready and prepared. Why? Because they have the attorneys that are following these laws as they're changing. They have attorneys already specialized in being able to deal with those specific issues. And the simplicity of it is, as soon as you become a member, and I would encourage people to do it now before the kid goes to school. Why? Because you can know, because they're gonna hand out a bunch of papers for the kids to sign. And if you're like me, and if now I pay attention because I'm gonna send the stuff to the law firm to look at. But before, it'd be just like, I'm in this classroom, I'm just signing everything because I'm just trying to get out of here. I'm not reading that stuff, and they know that you're not going to read it. So that name, image, and likeness bill, there's some components to that. And trust me, the universities have figured out a way where there's some advantage for them in there too. That if people don't figure out what that is and turn that back in their favor, because they probably have a legal right to do it, people are just signing it away. And then after they find out later, you can't change it. I'm encouraging people to call the law firms start now and say, hey, listen, I have a student athlete who's going to be going to college at a D1 level. He's a blue chip player, and they're going to be doing jerseys and all this image likeness stuff. I want to talk to you about what I need to be prepared for, what I need to look out for. What do you recommend we do during those situations? When he gets a piece of paper, can you review it before he signs it? See, that's a whole different ball game. When they asking you to sign things, you don't have to sign them right then. You can say, just like LeBron and them, hey, hold up. I'm not putting my signature on it until my attorney say it's good. So how powerful of a position are you in, Coach? I'll get back with you in 3 days. My attorneys, my family's gonna have my attorney look over all that stuff before I sign it. The coach gonna look at you like, really? You got an attorney to read this little document to say you're just gonna get some cleats?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I don't know what that really means, and it ain't my job to learn all that stuff. I'm just gonna get advice from people who have my best interests at heart.
Dr. Pitts, you had a comment?
Yeah, I think that what came up for me, and I think that
Can't hardly hear you, Dr. Pitts.
Your volume's a little low.
Can you hear me now?
No, you sound like you're far away from it.
I don't know what that's all about. How about now?
No, still far away. So and I think you made a great point to that. And that was something that I was thinking about, where, because it's like, this is brand new territory for these student athletes. And, we've had these conversations on the show previously where we've talked about, like, what is that going to look like? How is that going to change the dynamics of amateur sports where, colleges for so long had this stranglehold over this whole word of amateurism for these student athletes. But, we both know, being former student athletes, whether you're Division I or Division III, the expectations are the same for you. I talk about all the time at Virginia State as a student athlete, I had the same expectations as if I was going to Virginia Tech. I didn't have free time. I didn't have days off, whether it was during the season or off season. And I think, I think this is going to be a brand new realm for student athletes where, I can promise you, at 18, 19 years old, if I knew that this bill was going to be starting off when I was going into a freshman year at a school, and I knew I could start making money as a freshman, my mindset will probably change. And I'll be honest with you, my mindset will change. Will my love for football still be there? Will my goal still be to get to the professional league? Absolutely. And I think that's where we're going to see how this works out. And to your point, these schools have had all this time because they're unveiling this plan. The NCAA is unveiling this plan. So, it would be naive of student athletes or parents to think for 1 second that they don't have loopholes. They don't have protection or cushions set in place to where, like, if anything, I would feel like the requirements of a student athlete are probably going to become more stringent and harder already than what they were, because they know, well, now we're splitting the pie with you even more now. It's no more we're just giving you room and board, paying for your academics and stuff like that, and getting a little stipend that can't even cover, rent for longer than 2 months. Now we're giving you a piece of the pie because we use your photo for a bulletin board on the highway, because we threw you in a commercial, because we had you come on a radio show or do an interview, because we had you do autographs during preseason for 3 hours one day. So now they have to split that. And like you said, that's a lot of mumbo jumbo legal, stuff that at 18 years old, that's going to go, not all 18-year-olds, but specifically, and to your point, I think, especially for name, image, and likeness, those student athletes who come from the low income areas, where, to your point, while the services are relatively, inexpensive and very favorable, only, from $25 to $50 a month, that's very reasonable. But like, we have student athletes who come from areas where, well, their Section 8 rent might be only $25 a month, and they can barely pay that. So, for those student athletes who might not have that type of protection offered to them, and even if it is offered, they might buck against it because it's foreign and they're not used to it, and they've never had no adult really talk to them on that level and break it down to them why this is important for them at this point in time. I think for those student athletes, it's going to be super important to have some type of representation for somebody to look out for you for your own interest, because we know these schools are going to try and still finesse these kids like they've been doing for so long.
And I think that if the university offers it, the way it works is the university is not offering it as a agent, if you will. They're just saying, hey, come on, this is a service that we're offering. Legalshield runs everything. So it's not, they don't get involved in the legalities of cases and all of that other stuff. The university is just an independent person on the outside. But the other thing too is they're going to be we don't want the student athlete also to go in and make a mistake. And let's say they say you can't post on Instagram on Tuesdays and Fridays, your likeness and image, and earn any money. You know that. You just heard them say, yeah, you can get paid on your likeness and image or whatever, but you didn't read the exception. Now, if you violate that, maybe the way they have it written, and I don't know this for sure, that now you violate your right to be able to participate because you violated the way the system was run. But if you were educated and had an attorney review the contract, they would have told you never put your picture on Tuesdays and Thursdays on Instagram, and it's Fridays and Sundays on Facebook. So now you know you're ahead of the game, so you won't violate, and maybe other people will, but they shouldn't, because they can have the same information fed to them. They can call the law firm during business hours every day with an unlimited number of phone calls. So if you're not clear, call that. If you got a problem with this, call that and talk to that type of attorney that specializes in that. Oh, I need somebody I'm ready to buy a car, which is another one that students do. Mom and daddy in California, you're going to school in Virginia State. Mom and daddy you just gonna send them a photograph of the car. Ain't nobody looked under the hood. They trusting you with that. Now when you buy the lemon, and now they just sent you the money for the lemon on Cash App and trusted you. You didn't have your attorney look over the agreement. You didn't have maybe a mechanic look at the car properly. Now you bought a lemon and you signed an agreement that says I accept it as is. So those things that we just saw the shiny car with the rims, and we wanted it. We just wanted transportation. When I turned it on, it sounded like it was running. And as soon as I got it home, 2 weeks later, it was broken down. So how do I get my money back? And now you're mad because you made a ill-advised decision without proper counsel. So that's just another example of how, students can get taken advantage of as well.
Gotcha. Dr. Pitts, you back with us?
I think so. Can you hear me?
It's still a little, sound like it's far away.
I don't know what's going on. So
we can hear you though, but you can talk.
You can talk. We can hear you. It's just we might do this a little bit.
I don't know what happened. Yeah, what I was gonna ask escaped me. So it's all good. I think so much comes up for me within the context of finances and legal issues. Earlier in the conversation, I was thinking about so many of these kids, some of which are scholar athletes that we've heard about in the news, that have gotten in legal trouble because they were streaming inappropriate activities that were going on at parties. And, social media is the devil. and it's gotten so many, social media is like the eyewitness now.
Yeah.
They always say that, eyewitness accounts are not or not legitimate or not reliable. Yeah, they are when it's a camera that has recorded everything that's going on. And what comes to mind, and it was a few years ago, was a case, I don't know if it was Minnesota, Illinois, it was somewhere out there where like the whole football team was at a party where somebody got sexually assaulted, but they videotaped it. And when it all came down to it, it was 3 players in particular that ended up in court, tried and convicted because of this incident. So, first and foremost, and you all have been saying it over and over and over again, there has to be greater effort in making better choices. And we know that, as young people, as you're advancing through the life cycle, we've all made mistakes. You're going to always make mistakes. However, some mistakes just shouldn't be made. And I just would call it my naivete. I don't know. But I think that some of those mistakes can be avoided, that can save you time, money, and legal costs down the road if we go all the way back to what Ronnie said at the very beginning of the show, and you have the daggone conversations. Have the conversation. Stop talking about you don't want to have the conversation because the child is going to go out and do it. Unless there is some sort of extenuating circumstance, your kids are going to have sex. They're probably going to smoke cannabis. They might pop a pill or two. They might get drunk. Trying to find a PC way to say that. They might get drunk. They might say and do, they might flash themselves, because eventually spring break is going to return to norm. Eventually Mardi Gras is going to return to norm. And, Lil Hakeem and Buff Quita and them, they will be, everything else is going to be hanging out. And you're going to turn on the 6 o'clock news and they're going to be Hakeem and Buff Quita. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh.
Mhm.
And you're not prepared. Stop being afraid to have these conversations, because if you don't have them when you have a chance to, trust and believe, you're going to have them after the fact, but it's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you legal issues. And oh, by the way, what we haven't talked about, how much time we got, Ronnie?
We got 10 minutes, and I also have one more question for Ted as well.
You know what we do need to touch on real quick, and I think, Ted, you sort of alluded to it, is that these kids do not have legal representation. They're getting in all this trouble on campus. You're catching a charge that is a felony that is not coming off of your record. Dependent upon it, you might not be able to get it expunged. And now guess what? It's going to impact your ability to get a job, because everybody's not going to the league. Everybody's not going to the league. It's going to impact your ability to get a job. It's going to impact where you live. It's going to impact the type of work you can do. Whereas if you take the initiative to take these recommendations that we are offering you today and you protect yourself, it can be instrumental in helping you to make well-informed decisions. It can get, because can I just say, transparency. Y'all ready?
Come on.
Fitz has been drunk a time or two. Or four.
No. No.
What?
No.
Total transparency. Dr. Pitts was a cannabis smoking fool once upon a time.
No.
Total transparency. Dr. Pitts drove inebriated there more than what they say, God watch out for fools, babies, and drunks. Well, I qualify for all of them at the same time, and he had protected Dr. Pitts. But I say all of that to say is that understand, because the street is notorious for giving you wrong information. The climate in the US is so hot right now because of all of this racial tension and injustice. Folk are operating from a place of emotion every minute of every day. And emotion is not good for making well-informed, sound decisions. Your emotions will get you dead. Your emotions will get you behind bars. Your emotions will have you in situations that are precarious and that you might not come out of intact. Take the initiative to dot your I's and cross your T's. I cannot imagine why every person of color in this country does not have this protection. It is more needed now than ever before in the history of our history in this country. We must protect ourselves legally. We must protect our families. We are the most valuable investment that you'll ever make.
Yeah.
Ronnie,
and Dr. Pitts, I'm glad we be here. I promise you we'll be right, because that leads me in,
name, image, and likeness. It was right here in my
that leads me into my last question for Ted. And Ted, I want you to bring us home on this one, because to Dr. Pitt's points, for our generation, because I always tell people, as bad as it's been during these last, I would say, decade or so, me personally, I wouldn't want to live in any other generation than right now, because I couldn't fathom what it was like for my dad's generation, his dad's generation, going back, 3-4 generations. I couldn't imagine what it was like being alive as a Black person during those times, when we don't even have an iota of the rights and the privileges we have now. But to that point, and Ted, I want to ask you, because I think your voice and your message has been great so far, and I think you can hit this one home. Why is it so important for Black people, whether you're a student athlete or just the everyday Black person? And unfortunately, and I've had this conversation with several of my younger Black clients, and talking to them how, not every police officer is bad. Not the justice system doesn't fail everybody. But, we live in a society where that negativity is put out there far greater than the successes of, you know, police officers. There are Black police officers. There are white police officers who do a good job. There are white judges who do a good job. There are white doctors who do a good job, but we don't hear about that. And so why for a Black person is having Legalshield, and how can they know that, you know, even having this service and paying their hard-earned money each month to have these protections, how do they know, and how do they get that reassurance that their money is not going to go in vain and they will actually have a fair day in court no matter what it is? Because how many times have we seen white student athletes? The one that comes to mind is the swimmer. I think he was a swimmer for Stanford, who he has sexually I think he raped a female while she was intoxicated, and they had video evidence and all this. And he just got basically 6-month probation with no jail time. If that was a Black student athlete, they would have threw him under the courthouse. Mm-hmm. So how do we convey this message, and how do we give reassurance to our brothers and sisters out there that having Legalshield, having ID Shield gives you the same rights and responsibilities of life, liberty, and happiness that have been guaranteed to us by the Constitution, by the Declaration of Independence: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are the 3 freedoms that we were guaranteed, no matter your skin color, no matter what you look like, how tall or how short you were. How do we let our people know that having this product and having this type of support system will benefit them?
Great question. And I'm just going to start with how the model actually works. So I'm going to take you behind the curtain so you can see how the business model works on the financial end, so that people can understand that this is wonderful the way it's set up. Simply, let's say like here in Maryland, we have one law firm per state. Some states have more than 2. So you have a provider firm. They have every area of law. They're a top tier law firm, first of all. So they're AV rated by Martindale Hubbell, or BV rated, which simply means they're the cream of the crop. They're like the ones that the Johnny Cochrans and all of those. Johnny Cochran's a BV rated firm, the Cochran firm. So these are only the firms that Legalshield solicits and does business with, that has relationships for their clients. So why does a top tier law firm want to have a person pay $25 a month, and then they're going to review their contracts and speak to them whenever, and do their will and last will and testament form, covering and speeding tickets everywhere? Well, 1/3 of your $25 payment, let's say $8 in this scenario, goes to the law firm in your state. But like here in Maryland, we have about 50,000 people who, at minimum, who have a Legalshield membership right now. So the law firm gets a deposit in their bank account every first of the month for, let's say, $450,000 a month. So that makes Legalshield the highest paying retaining client to that firm. Mm-hmm. So even though Legalshield is not the represented person, it's the people that are in the network are the clients that were brought to the law firm so that they can do what they went to school for. They don't have to market to find clients. People like myself go out and find people who have a need for this and expose them to it, and the law firm's income gets greater and greater. So just to give you an example of a couple of the firms, like out in California, Parker Stanberry is a law firm, same law firm that represents the LA Dodgers, Rite Aid Corporation when they were in business. So that's who the people, if you lived in California, that's the firm you call. You're getting that tier of law firms to help you. So think about it. You couldn't afford them by yourself. Legalshield just gives you the best of the best for pennies a day. And the law firm knows that all 50,000 people are not going to have a problem all at the same time. They take about 200 to 300, maybe 400 calls a day. They have a system and a division that's set up specifically for Legalshield members. So even though they have other clients, Legalshield pays them enough money in this network to allow them to create a whole division for all of its members nationwide. So they don't have a problem with the money piece of it because they're already being paid to do 90% of the stuff already. The other stuff that they're going to give you a discount on, and the criminal stuff, it's still going to be you getting a top tier firm versus a public defender. And I got to say this real quick, Dr. Pitts. I know you say you ain't throw their public defenders under the bus. I don't either. They are great attorneys. The problem with them and their challenge is they have so many cases on their plate They just don't have enough time to use the skills that they went to school for or have the resources financially because the state doesn't want to pay to get research on these cases, get witnesses and all this other stuff. So they tend to focus on pleading out cases because that's how it is. So the advantage with Legalshield is they're going to give you the best interest for their client, not necessarily the best interest for the state.
Gotcha.
All right, Ron.
Hey, I want to throw out there, if they want to get in contact with me, Ronnie, anybody wants to have any questions about what we talked about or has some specific questions about Legalshield, they can reach out to me personally at 302. I'm taking it all on my cell phone because I care about all these people. 302-270-4500.
Uh-oh.
He froze.
He had one more number to go. Dang, he did that to us on purpose. Gave his whole number, then dropped one last number.
302-270-4507. Am I unstable? Y'all got it?
No, you good now. You good.
But
You
I want to
good.
also, I think Dr. Pitts has a website that they can go to for Legalshield as well. I don't know if she can put it on the screen or.
I didn't pull it up. That's on me. That's on me.
All right, she's gonna pull it up while Ronnie talks. I know we're at the end of the show at this point, so I don't want to belabor it. But I want anybody that has any questions or concerns, want to talk about Legalshield and see if it'll be a great fit for you, your student athlete. Thank you, Dr. Pitts, for giving me the platform to be able to reach out to individuals that are your listening audience. And I'm just truly excited about trying to help as many people as possible. Currently, 1.5 million families currently in the U.S. sleep well at night because they have Legalshield in their arsenal of tools that they need to get along with life. We have 360 million people that live in the U.S. So there's a huge opportunity for us to protect more people. And I'm looking to be able to be one of those people that changes the thought process of our people to say, I got an affordable opportunity to use something that I generally have been priced out of. And at least I have something to go to when I have a situation versus having nothing at all, except option 2 at $300 to $400 an hour in need. Most people just walk away and go to Google and ask everybody else what to do. We're not attorneys. Pay somebody else to do what they went to school for. And if it's affordable, we're talking about having identity theft and your family's covered for $50 a month. Get on that website and get that service today. And the services are immediate. So you can call the law firm Monday, right? As soon as you enroll, they're not going to say you have to be with us for 3 months. And the other piece, all your baggage. I want you to think all weekend, all your baggage from the past that you never straightened out, still got stuff hanging over your head. Legalshield is open arms when you call them to take on your pre-existing conditions as well. So you don't even have to say that it was after the date that I, started. They'll take on stuff from 1989 and whatever, as long as the statute of limitations is still available legally for you to pursue. So thank you, Dr. Pitts, again for your time. And Brother Ransom, great job moderating this call. I can't wait to come back again. And Dr. Pitt, Brother Ransom, you're going to be on my podcast because one of the things that I want to talk about that you guys kind of touched on and alluded on is the title of the show is going to be, what do you do when she says no? So we want to talk about the brothers that are on campus, and we got her in the room, and she's got a little wine in her, and just like you were saying, people getting in trouble for these incidences. How do we get there? Absolutely. How do we make sure now that we're not in that situation that maybe 10 years ago, people were getting away with it because it wasn't exposed. But now we have audio and technology and phones and all this other stuff. It'll ruin your life if you make the wrong decision. And so I want to talk about that. And I think you would be a great person to have on that show.
I'll be honored to be on there, sir. Just let me know. We can link up afterwards, and that would be an honor to be on there and to talk about that. Thank you. And thank you, like I said, thank you for your time. Thank you for, taking the time out to come talk with us and putting this out there because, like I said, it's one thing for, somebody of, me and Dr. Pitt's stature to have this information and have access to these resources, but we don't do this for people like us. We do this for the people who don't have a voice and don't have representation. You want them to know that there are people who look like you and have walked the same walk as you, who have these resources available to you and your families if you want that and if you want that help. So, and like I said, I think it's important for us to know that the criminal justice system isn't just all the way completely bad. There are some good in it. There are some good officers out there, and there are some good judges out there, but we have to have those for our people as well. So our people know they're going to get fair, just treatment no matter what it is. And they will have their day in court and have an unbiased, audience to listen to, help them out with that. So, thank you, Mr. Ted. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Dr. Pitts, any final words?
You my hero.
Nah, you my hero.
You are. Thank you so very much for taking time out of what I know is an exorbitantly busy schedule. We appreciate you. We look forward to having you back again and again and again. Thank you for this wealth of information. I will pull the website. I dropped the ball today, and I don't drop the ball. Just too much.
Don't worry, but just tell the people to text me at 302-270-4507 and say that, hey, I heard you on the Lauren on House Talk.
Yeah.
HT, I'm sorry, on HT, and then I know that they're calling from your show, and I definitely will let you know that. I know my phone's gonna blow up, so I'll send you my my cell phone bill once I exceed the. You're gonna exceed unlimited. Don't even know what unlimited is when all these people will be calling. So I got you.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
That is it for HT Pregame for today. We'll be right back next Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Oh, and just one more thing. Because of popular demand, even though April is Financial Literacy Awareness Month, we're actually extending into the first week in May. So we have, we've got a financial expert that'll be on with us again. Mike Prophet will be back next week. And then the week after that, we have a credit specialist that's going to be on with us for that first show in May, because folks, folk like talking about money. They want to get their money straight. So we're going to extend the financial literacy topic into that first show in May. So until next Saturday, folks, I am Dr. Lauren Pitts, Sports Entertainment Empowerment Coach. Talk to you next week. Thank you.
Hello.
Bye-bye.